And welcome everyone to Goal Chat Live. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Debra Eckerling, author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals, and founder of the DEB Method, which is my system for goal setting simplified. And every Sunday night, I lead the Goal Chat Twitter chat where we share wins and set goals and dive into the week's topic. And then the next day, I will bring in friends to dive deeper. And I'm so excited. So the August theme is fun. And when I hear fun, I think food, and food is today's topic. And I have wonderful, wonderful guests. I'm so thrilled. First, we have Cat Dillon, who is my newest friend, who I'm thrilled to get to know more because she's all about the eating and the eating well and the food. So, and Dr. Meg, who introduced us, said she's perfect. So thank you. And Dr. Meg Haworth, we just met a few months ago, but I feel like I've known you forever because we're connected through Ladies Take the Lead and Finding Fabulous, and we've guested back and forth, and it's great to see you here again. And among other things, Dr. Meg is a professional personal chef. So when I said food, Meg said, yes, please. And Beth Howard, who is the pie baker and author extraordinaire, or should I say author and pie baker extraordinaire. And of the batch, we've known each other since I did my live meetups at Barnes & Noble in Santa Monica, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, but also through Media Bistro. And that's back and forth, and she's so close yet so far away because we're all connected. We're all West Coast, LA-ish area, which doesn't always happen. So anyway, that is completely irrelevant. What matters is we're going to talk about food, and it's going to be awesome. So why don't we start with you, Kat? Will you please let everyone know a little bit more about you and why you're here and why you love food?
Wow, loaded question. Where do I start? Oh my gosh. Well, I am here as a registered holistic nutritionist / chef. I started my career as a chef who got burnt out and always had a passion for cooking healthy anyway. I started cooking at a very, very young age. I remember my first dish. You're not going to believe this. It was veal scallopini. I would never eat veal anymore. Okay, let's get this straight. But I was like 7 years old, and I made veal scallopini off my first cookbook. At the same time, I was listening to Jack LaLanne on PBS in the back room, and that'll totally age me, right? And so I was always interested in food and wellness as just, feeling fit, feeling good. And eating well. And food was always a big deal in my family. Growing up as a Cuban mother with a Cuban mother and an Irish father, we always had food was just always the thing. We'd go out to restaurants, or we'd go to a cousin's house where there was pig roast and Cuban food and black beans and picadillo and all kinds of beautiful food. And ultimately, I just wanted to combine both forces, and I actually did. I gave up cooking in restaurants about 10 years ago, and never to look back. And I love it. I celebrate food with my clients. Most of my clients are burnt out women, kind of midlife, and I really help them just rediscover their passion for eating well, and also, lots of my clients do suffer, unfortunately, from either hormonal imbalance or gut issues, and we sort of bring back not just the healthy eating, but also really connecting with their food. I think we've been so disconnected. I'm sure you ladies are going to be able to agree and kind of talk about that during the show here. But I'm really feeling like there's a really big disconnection with food and eating, and that's why I was so excited, Debra, that you had me on here today to get into this issue.
Well, and it's great to meet you, and I love having you on. And I just have to share, the earliest thing I remember cooking is I tried to make grilled cheese in a pop-up toaster oven. It was not pretty. I just had this flash as you were the exact opposite of your first cooking memory. Luckily, I don't scare people with my cooking anymore, but maybe I'll talk a little bit about that later. But that was just like such vivid food and food memories. It's such an important part of bonding and keeping people together, especially now where everybody does feel disconnected. Food is like the one conversation anybody can have with anybody. So, Dr. Meg, wonderful to see you.
You too. Thank you for having me on here again.
And please tell everybody more about you and why you are here and why you love food.
Yeah, wow. Food healed me. I mean, it really seriously healed me. In my 20s, I had over a dozen illnesses. I was in and out of doctors' offices, and I ended up learning about alternative medicine. I went to a chiropractor, and she said, you need to go to a nutritionist. And so I went to the nutritionist, and she said I had, all these digestive disorders, irritable bowel syndrome, migraine headaches, and on and on and on, over a dozen illnesses. And so she said, in 97% of the IBS cases that she saw, if you eliminate gluten, dairy, sugar, I did a whole elimination diet. So that was like caffeine, and this was 25 years ago too, before food allergies were a thing, in our just sort of modern conversation. We didn't have a gluten-free aisle like we have in the grocery store now. So at any rate, I eliminated those things, and within a week or 2 weeks, I was feeling like a whole new person. I was still really sick and had a long way to go, and that's how I ended up getting into transpersonal psychology, because I was also healing the mind-body connection, and then food to support itself to heal the whole person. So I combine all of those things together now, and I work with people all over the globe. And one of the things that I do is I help people with diets for specific chronic conditions. Because a lot of times you'll get a big list from your doctor that says, you can't have these 25 things, so what do I eat now? And people get stuck in that. It's really horrifying. I remember the first time I walked into a Whole Foods Market when I was like 27, and that's where my nutritionist sent me to go. And I walked in and saw all these tiny little boxes with these brands I'd never seen in my whole life. I burst into tears and I left the store. And then I proceeded to lose like 25 pounds because I didn't know what to eat. And I want to prevent people from that. So the first cookbook I wrote was Done with Dairy, Giving Up Gluten. And it's 14 days to a delicious and healthy you. And it's 14 days of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert for people that want to or have to go gluten-free and dairy-free overnight, because I didn't want people to have to go through that. I actually heard that story from so many people along the way. So, but I worked in Hollywood for 14 years as a private chef to celebrities, and it was really fun. I don't actually do that anymore. The pandemic ended that career for good, or at least for now. Because I actually have been in touch with some people, and I might consider taking one. I don't know. I miss the creative aspect of cooking. It's just like Cat was saying, it's exhausting. It's really hard work. And 7 years ago, I was struck by lightning, which was what actually took me out of the game of private chef, period. So I was able to do one or two people, but after that is when I put everything together into my holistic wellness programs. So that's where I am today.
So you used all the things that you needed to learn, and you used it to help other people, which is wonderful. And I love how, so we're transitioning from gluten-free to pie baker.
Yes.
And author. Beth Howard. Beth, so nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
I do make gluten-free pie crust when I need to. It's just a matter of finding the right flour, which is not very hard anymore. Even in rural Iowa, where I've been living on a farm, the local Walmart, which is sadly where we have to shop, they carry gluten-free flour. and Bob's Red Mill and other brands. Even Walmart has its own brand of gluten-free flour now. So that's how far we've come, right, Meg, since the early days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm a pie maker, and I use pie also as healing in a different way. I lost my husband 12 years ago this month, and my grief was so overwhelming. I was pretty stuck in that. But I had been a pie baker very. Just as a funny story, like I had been a journalist, and then I went to work for a .com in San Francisco during the height of the boom, and the amount of time spent behind a computer screen was ridiculous, and we were creating virtual worlds, and it's like, no, we should be getting people out in, doing outdoor adventures outside instead of just sitting on their butts watching them on a computer. So I when I quit, I said, I just want to go work with my hands. And so I ended up making pie in Malibu at Malibu Kitchen. It's still there. I was their resident pie baker for a year. And but fast forward, I got married, and then when my husband died at the age of 43 of a ruptured aorta, I was mired in grief, and I turned back to pie baking because pie had nurtured me back to life after the .com job, and it once again nurtured me back after the loss of my husband and got me through the grief. Because what happens is pie makes people happy. You make somebody a homemade pie, and you have the experience of the meditative experience. So, you guys, we're all sort of alike, even though I'm not like the holistic part of it actually, but I'm, mind-body connection, you're putting your energy into your food, you're slowing down, you're making something with your hands, you're having a tactile experience, and you're making something for somebody else. So it gets you out of your head, and it's, you can feel good about your accomplishment. And then when you give that pie to somebody as a gift, and ideally, you're making it for somebody who needs to be cheered up, somebody else who's going through a hard time. There's always somebody going through a harder time than you are. That is the one thing I learned at the lowest point of my grief. There's always somebody suffering more than you. So get out and do something for somebody else. Make them a pie, or make them a gluten-free lasagna, or it doesn't matter, but the fact that you just do something to give of yourself to others. And pie for me is that thing, that vehicle, but it's a metaphor for me. It could be, you were talking about Tom Pappas earlier with he makes bread and gives it away. I know somebody who knits prayer shawls and gives them away, but the point is to give of yourself to make other people feel good, and that in turn makes you feel good, and therein lies the healing. So that's my story, kind of part of it.
Well, I love it, and I was very adamant when I was putting together this panel that I wanted, but I thought it was very important to have the balance of because you are eating to heal in just a different way, and cooking to heal. And anybody who's known me longer than 4 years knows that I did not love to cook until I got my Instant Pot 4 years ago, and now it was life-changing for me. Mm-hmm. And I could not have survived the last year and a half of trying to be creative with food without it. There's so many different layers, yes, pun was intended, to all different types of food. So let us jump in, and I probably know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you consider yourself a healthy eater? I mean, obviously, like I said, I kind of feel like everybody's going to say, well, yes, mostly. So do you, and I'll add a sweetener to it. What is the one thing that you eat that maybe isn't so healthy but makes you feel good? And Kat, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, well, fortunately for me, I absolutely love the flavor, the taste of healthy food. I honestly do. Hand on heart, it just is. I'll say probably, and I'll preface this answer to say that it, everybody has their level of what they consider like is healthy and whatever, but I would say probably wine would be my unhealthiest thing, and even that is not like I really keep a cap on that, and I don't drink more than like 4 glasses in a week. So I'll have like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with my husband, or a friend. It's always celebratory with the meal, just to really enhance the meal itself. I would say that would probably be it. I would say to people, making sure, they're not doing the 4 glasses at one time. And it's funny because, people have this different perception of like alcohol and size, right? And volume. Much of the time, people are like, yeah, I have 1 glass, but they're drinking like a big bucket. Anyway, that's probably my thing. That would be my unhealthiest.
Okay, I think we should call them cheat foods, because
Treat food.
Treat
yeah.
foods is even better than cheat foods. Okay, Dr. Meg.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't like the cheat food idea. It just makes it sound like you're doing something dirty and bad. You know what I mean? Like something in the shadows. But yeah, treat foods. Let's see. Probably, I do eat very, very healthy. Like everything's organic, gluten-free, dairy-free. Like Cat, I love the taste of vegetables. Like if I don't have enough vegetables in a day, I'm like craving them, and I'll just get a bowl full of them and put fun things on it. Fun to me anyway. And I wasn't always like this. I was a junk food junkie growing up. So it was crazy because my dad was a junk food person and my mom was an organic gardener. So we had both sides of the coin there. But probably the worst thing I do is same as Cat. It's wine, and it's definitely not every day. And sometimes I'll go for several weeks without having any at all. And then, it'll be like on a weekend, it'll be celebratory with a friend. Same, not to excess, but still it's, alcohol is really hard for the body to process. And I know for me, because I didn't drink at all for 2 years at one point, and I was able to keep my weight down. But when I started drinking again, it was like, 5 pounds that it's not going unless I stop again. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that, the extra 5 pounds. It's just nice to have that. There's just that thing of sharing it, and the flavor. Oh my God, I love the flavors and the way it pairs with foods. Like when you have a nice red with something spicy, it's really great. So yeah, so that's where I am. And then, sugary, chocolatey things, but even that, I don't do that very much.
But wine is healthy and dark chocolate is healthy, right? So we're good.
It's debatable.
Ish. Okay, we can get more into that. And what about you, Beth? What are your treat foods? I guess pie, but tell us a little bit more about your love of food.
Well, I when you guys are talking, and just because I just got back to California, what I'm thinking is, I've been living on this farm, and we do farm to table, and that sounds really healthy and organic, but it's a lot of red meat because my partner raises cattle. So just been eating way too much meat, in my opinion. But I'm with this farmer, and that's what he eats 3 times a day. And it's hard to get away from that when you live with somebody. So now that I'm here flying solo for a while in California, I'm like so into those Buddha bowls. I can't, give me the kale and the brown rice so it's funny because I'm like doing the opposite now. Instead of treating myself, I'm here like detoxing practically. I'm just like, okay, I need to, I'm going to do the gluten-free. I'm really cutting back right now. If I treat myself, definitely wine. I'll never take that off the list. I drink lattes. I've got the dairy thing going. I'm not super careful, but I get asked all the time, how do you eat so much pie and stay so thin? And I'm like, I don't eat it. I give it away. I make it for other people. It's not like cookies where you can just have one and then nobody will know if you took one, or, it's like you serve it around pie. If you take a slice, it just doesn't, you don't do that. You don't offer somebody a pie with a slice missing. So, but I like, I love chocolate. So that's my treat food. But but I learned a long time ago that, if you, like you were talking about the word cheat, and if you like deprive yourself and you tell yourself that you can't have something, there's oftentimes that the opposite happens. Then you start craving it because you're so conscious of it. And so I've learned to not I've learned to say that, hey, I can have whatever I want, but I always stop and ask myself, well, how bad do I really want it? And then I have a friend who's her little code is WTC. Is it worth the calories? So now I just look at something and I go, WTC, and then, so that's part of the mindfulness thing. It's just a simple question you can ask yourself, like, is it really worth it? Is that really what I want? Maybe I just need a good cry, or maybe I just need to go for a walk, or, I'm not a huge follower of Glennon Doyle, but I did read in her book, Untamed, I guess it was, sometimes you just need a glass of water. It's just so simple. Like, that could just be this cleansing thing. So, I think we overcomplicate this whole question, and it's just, it's all about balance, right? It's exercise, it's mindfulness, it's don't stress eat, or if you do, make up for it somewhere else.
So balance, moderation. I'm sorry, say again?
Oh, no, that's just my roundabout answer to your question.
No, it's all the answers. There are no wrong answers, especially when it comes to food. But in general, there are no wrong answers. That's why I so enjoy doing this show, because we get people with different takes and different opinions. It really is, though, all about balance, moderation, and do you really want to do an hour of cardio to make up for the scoop of ice cream, or maybe a frozen banana will do the trick, and that's much healthier. So there you go. I love frozen fruit. That is like my cheat, because I love ice cream. That used to be like, well, I still love ice cream, but I love feeling healthy more than I love ice cream. So I will have frozen fruit, frozen cherries, like totally addictive, because you get the natural sugar and it feels good, and it actually makes me feel better than eating ice cream. I know.
Well, the sad reality is, the older you get, I'm probably the oldest one here by far, the older you get, the harder it is to keep the weight down, and the harder it is to keep your muscle tone. So it's just, then that really, is it worth the calories? That's when it really comes into play, because it's just.
So the balance and figuring out what makes sense for you, is this going to make me feel good? My biggest downfall when I worked for other people was this vending machine with soda in it, or worse, when they had the fridge stocked with soda, which I worked for Stardust, and they had that, and that was like my worst thing. So whenever I felt like feeling healthy, I would just kick the soda. I've been off soda, with the rare exception, for years, and oh my goodness, does it make you feel good not having all the chemicals. Anyway, just my take. Did you have something to say about this, Meg?
I do.
Please.
This, all things in moderation, is dangerous when it comes to food. And I really have to call this out, because there are so many food chemicals. I mean, there's over 10,000 chemicals that we swallow in our food every day. There's herbicides, pesticides, fungicides that they're spraying on what's supposed to be healthy food, like spinach and broccoli and all these things. And I think that food quality is super important, and what you put into your mouth translates to your body. And I agree with Beth that you have to, as you get older, I just turned 54, you have to continue refining your diet as you get older. I constantly have to refine my diet, because it's not about fighting with weight for me. It's about keeping my health in balance. And that to me is more important than thinking about I'm balancing my food and having all things. Do you know what I mean? Like, because to me, extra weight is inflammation, and I don't want to have that. And I have also lived a life where I was very sick for years, and so I don't ever want to go back to that condition. And my body tells me right away, and I feel bad for people whose bodies don't tell them you know, that this is not good for you, and this is causing this disease or that problem. So anyway, I just had to jump in there and say that.
Oh,
I think
please.
it's when you get used to it though, right? Dr. Meg, like with your clients, wouldn't you say that once they get into the habit of eating, then they go, the next time, you know, somebody waves something processed in front of them, they're like, no, that doesn't sound good. Like when you say that it's like a habit. If you get to the point, used to how your body feels.
You get and you get to the point too where you just don't want that kind of thing. Like just the whole idea of having, you know, a processed donut just grosses me out, you know, or a Ritz cracker. Ugh, the coating on the roof of your mouth, that stuff does. Like you don't know until you stop all of it, and then your palate adjusts to real food, and you're like, this stuff is amazing. It's so much better, and I feel so much better. So yeah.
And you know, don't you think too, it's just really taking the weight piece off of the table and thinking about, we're talking about inflammation here. This is serious business, right? With brain inflammation, cardiovascular inflammation. I mean, we do not want to age with brain inflammation. We have, look at Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is actually considered diabetes type 3. And regulating our blood sugar really should be numero uno in what we're doing, right? It's going to make us have a better mood. It's going to make us more resilient to stressors, the ability to actually want to do the things that are good for us, right? When we're in a crappy mood because we haven't eaten, the last thing we want to do is get to bed early and choose the foods that are really good for us that lower inflammation. It's just like this constant cycle, feel bad, self-medicate, right? Eat too much pie or you know, drink wine and then watch Netflix all night, get a really bad sleep, drink 3 cups of coffee, eat a donut or eat a muffin or something like that because it feels good. We don't want to do the long term. Our brains aren't really wanting that. We're wanting that short term reward, that dopamine hit, and then we all just sort of fall to the wayside and really just have this trouble getting our bodies back. But it's not just that. It's not the weight. It's all the rest of the stuff.
So I have a question. What are good foods to eat to sleep better? Because that is like, especially, I read this study about how people's sleep is work. Did I see this from you, Dr. Meg? I don't know. Something about how people are sleeping worse these days because of all the stress with the pandemic and life and what have you. So what is the solution? Please enlighten us.
Well, I'll go real quick here. I'm sure Dr. Meg has a lot to say here. Absolutely, it's not only what we are eating, but what we're not. Alcohol is number one, the worst thing for sleep, the worst thing. Also foods that you're sensitive to. It could be even a healthy food that you're sensitive to. So finding out what your intolerances are, your sensitivities are, managing your blood sugar. So a real not so good thing to do is to have that later dessert, right? If you're having something like that or a treat, you know, making sure that it happens the earlier part of the day when you're more active, right? For circadian rhythms, you've probably heard about that. And then foods that are rich in tryptophan really, really help. Things like turkey, beans, a small amount of whole grains, vegetables. The other thing is, a lot of times I tell my clients, if they're watching their carbs, especially if they're in the perimenopausal, menopausal stages, is to consider being lower carb for the daytime, and then at night to maybe have a little bit more carbohydrate in their last meal of the day, making sure that meal is early enough so they can sleep. But let's say it's a small amount of, let's say, sweet potatoes, purple potatoes, brown rice, wild rice, something like that. Because I find that there's a lot of my clients that are going too low carb for them, right? They might be stressed or stressed. We're just totally stressed out in pandemic nation. Who's not stressed out? So our bodies do need a little bit of carbohydrate, and I find that just having that at the latter meal really helps. the body. And then also, lastly, I'll just put in there, squeezing that eating window to be really tight, like not be grazing all day, minimizing the snacking, but eat in a short eating window. Definitely less than 12 hours really, really helps. If you can get that to 8 to 10, great. I mean, that's fantastic. But I think that a lot of times we eat too late, and that interferes with our good sleep, right? We're too busy digesting and not, we definitely need to have that good sleep to manage our digestion the next day. So that's the quick, dirty answer.
So you're actually advocating to eat dessert first because you don't want to eat dessert so late. Okay, I like to twist things.
Maybe sharing a dessert at lunch or something like that, or maybe after some exercise. But I will say too, what's really helpful, Debra, and this is one of the things that I tell my clients, the biggest help for people that have trouble either eating late or sleeping poorly or something like doing not so great habits at night, is to take that after dinner walk. That it's just a game changer. Your stomach feels better, you can rest better, you metabolize better, your blood sugar and insulin levels decrease, and if you have a really good sleep.
Great. Well, I love the tips. Dr. Meg, did you want to add to that?
What she said, and I would also say that if you do have food allergies, food sensitivities, it can cause all kinds of issues in your body. They've been linked to so many different diseases. So, and it could be linked to poor sleep as well. It just, it fascinates me every single time because we're so different in how we metabolize food and how we deal with chemical overload in our environment and in our bodies. And it's so individual, and I think that's why it's great to have somebody like Cat around who knows her stuff when it comes to this, and knows what to look for. I mean, we both do in our different ways, and but yeah, I think wine is probably at the top of the list of the things that messes up your sleep worse than anything. Anyone who starts paying attention to the fact that, I had a few glasses of wine tonight and I woke up 4 hours later and couldn't go back to sleep. I mean, that's, and then there's foods that cause anxiety and depression and, maybe not in every single person, but they're more likely to. And they usually, we'll go back to food chemicals. Food chemicals are they're just not good all around.
So Beth, do you have any thoughts, insight in the food for sleeping topic?
I find that garlic is a stimulant for me. So if I have too much garlic, I'm not really that sensitive to foods that I'm aware of, but that's one that I know will keep me awake. And then I do like my wine also, but I find that white wine is much better for my sleeping than the red wine. Red wine, guarantee I'm 4 hours, exactly like you said, Dr. Meg, 4 hours, boom, awake. I'm like, man, it's that red wine again. So, just switch to white wine if that helps. And yeah, get a dog, because then you have to go for a walk after dinner, right? So that's a tip.
I like that. Get a dog.
Yes.
It's the solution
to
what
better
sleep.
If your dog is overweight, you are not getting enough exercise.
Interesting. I like that. So tell me, what sort of foods, and I also find it really, I love how you being in California, Beth, is making you eat healthier, and for you, that's the treat. I think that's amazing. What are some of your favorite meals or easy recipes? What is the one thing that you just enjoy and it fulfills you, makes you feel good? And like I said, bonus points if it's an easy recipe because I'm out of ideas. So, Beth.
Well, my thing is salad. I have to confess, I love baking. I love making pie. It's, it's this ritualistic thing that's, for all the reasons I mentioned before, why it's matters so much to me. But as for being a cook, I'm not at all. I mean, I'm good at arranging things on a plate. I'm really good at crackers and cheese, not Ritz. Don't worry, Dr. Meg. My like rice crackers. But yeah, what feels best to me is when I have a really nice big salad. And I mean, whether I'm on the farm or here, that's the one thing that I will do for myself as a meal that makes me feel really good. And what I especially love is when I'm on the farm and I can just walk out to the garden in my bare feet and pick the lettuce. Like, that's not everybody has that luxury. And of course, that's a very short window of time, and especially in Iowa. But you know, when you can grow some of your own things, that's definitely, that feels really good. And then it's so satisfying because you're like, I just picked this out of the garden. You just can't get any healthier than that, right? You can't get any fresher than that. But I have to tell one little story though. The broccoli that we've grown in the garden, it gets these big worms, and I'll never forget the time that I steamed the broccoli and I thought I'd gotten all the worms out because I washed it really well. And then I went to eat and there were worms on my plate. And so broccoli, I don't do broccoli anymore. I don't do garden broccoli anymore.
I have a tip for you. With garden broccoli, if you soak it in salt water.
Okay, next time.
It will bring the bugs and worms and stuff like that out.
I haven't quite gotten over it though. I just can't, you know what I mean? Like I can't unsee that worm on my plate. So
that's macabre.
Put a little bit of chopped anchovies in it and chili flakes, garlic. You won't even notice the worm.
A little extra protein.
Yeah, right? In some countries, you know, chocolate covered or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. I love, before I got my Instapot, salad was my signature dish because I did a summer short order at a country club, and the directive was the people didn't like to chew, so you had to make these really, really small chopped salads. So that became really, really yummy, and now I want one. So, Kat, what are some of your favorite meals? Preferably something easy that I can like get in. I'm sorry, the people who are watching can get inspired.
Okay. Well, I'm a big salad person myself. I think salads are amazing. I'm a little bit more elaborate at dinner. However, my lunches, I just threw it together about a couple hours ago, literally are leftovers and a really good dressing, and just kind of mix and match. Today I put together some, I know you said everybody can find, and I foresee this one ingredient to be super popular in the next 5 years, and that is seaweed. I threw together some seaweed and a delicious dressing, an Asian dressing that can be made in 5 minutes, over a ton of vegetables that my husband came home with, and tossed it together and ate it. I'm still full. It's just amazing. Like, seaweed has so many properties in it. It's a resistant fiber. It helps really grow healthy bacteria in your gut. It's great for your skin, your hair, everything. But I would say top 3 that everybody would love, probably really getting a good, getting your signature sauce or signature dressing that you make, right? Find something that works for you. A simple vinaigrette that you can just add different things to and make it shine all the time. Add a different herb, add a different spice. So you can even marinate in it. You can toss the salad, toss leftovers in it. That would be one. Another one, I would say, don't be afraid of making different things and tasting new vegetables, taking new ideas and substituting those in for your old standbys to make them fresh again, right? If you like pasta, make it with a different type of pasta. If you like beans, make a different bean, right? If you like, making a saute of vegetables with steak, chicken, or fish, just change the vegetable amount. But one thing that I would say is super easy for people if they're trying to lower, let's say, their carbohydrate intake or get more vegetables and color in, get some nice antioxidant phytochemicals, is to simply take a sweet potato or a large potato. I like to use colorful potatoes because they have the higher antioxidant content. Slice it with a super sharp knife And then put the slices about this thick into your toaster oven, like you're going to put a piece of this, and then just repeat the function over and over, and you literally get this beautiful piece of bread that's toasted. You can slather it with butter, ghee, olive oil, coconut butter, whatever you want, and that could be a bread for your, let's say, for your hamburger or for your steak sandwich or whatever, or open face. It's a great party pleaser, and that would be really good. That was 2, right? And so the third one, I'm just going to just give you another hint, and that is, it has nothing to do with food, but how you make things taste. Literally, you got to get your knives sharpened all the time. Like every few months, get your knives sharpened, because I'm guaranteeing you, your food doesn't taste as good when you're slicing with dull knives. So take them to like Sur La Table or your hardware store and get them sharpened.
Because it's so true. Because before I worked short order, I would be scared by the big knives, and now you need the big knives because it makes the food taste better, right?
And you're more likely to hurt yourself with a dull knife.
Yeah.
Excellent. Great tips. So, Dr. Meg, what say you?
What say me? I love sauces, pestos, soups, and stews. So I make a lot of those kinds of things, especially in the wintertime. But I love to make things like Thai curry. So good and really so easy. Let's see. I honestly eat a lot of high-fat food. So like, especially after I had my injuries, because it's much better for the nervous system and the brain to have like, I make my own coconut milk, avocados, nuts, seeds. And so in pestos, you're getting nuts, and I make all different types of ones. Like I just make up new ones all the time. It's like, what do I have in the kitchen? I'll just throw that in my food processor and make a new pesto. But one of my favorites is like a lemon pistachio pesto. So that's so delicious. Just pistachio nut meats with, I love how they call them nut meats. So you can get it at Trader Joe's. They have a nice package of those with basil and garlic and extra virgin olive oil, and then lemon. And of course I don't add cheese to anything. So, and I don't use the fake cheeses. Once in a great while I'll get those, but very rarely. And they have some really delicious ones now, but yeah, so yeah, we're getting hungry talking about all this food. I love to make these sauces because you can put them on anything. So like I'll make a piece of fish and then I'll have a side salad and I'll put some of the pesto on that, or I'll make a roasted red pepper sauce that's just 4 ingredients that just throw it in the Vitamix, boom, done. And you can just get the jarred roasted red pepper and Marcona almonds and shallots and garlic. Those 4 things, just so good. People
I
can't
have a
stop eating
question.
it.
Yeah. Speaking of sauces and one who doesn't cook, how do you feel about bitchin sauce? Have you ever had that?
Mm-mm.
You ever heard of it?
No.
Oh, okay.
What is it?
It's either made out of cashews or almonds. You can get it at Whole Foods and health food stores, and they have a cilantro one and a chipotle one. Anyway, I put that on my salad. I dip stuff in it. I mean, that's my go-to thing because I'm so lame that I don't really make that kind of stuff myself. But anyway, that might be a good tip. Check it out sometime.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
It's not cheap,
I'm
but
making notes.
tasty.
Yeah.
All right. So speed round on nuts. What are your feelings on the nut butters? Because there's like a nut butter for anything and everything. Cat?
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing. It's not so funny actually, but I'm definitely allergic to tree nuts. However, I do enjoy my seed butters, and they're fantastic. Now, many of my clients have issues with overeating and eating, like they might have poor breakdown of certain foods like fats. So for them, I'd say be careful because it's very easy to overconsume those with the nut seed butters. I mean, I know for sure myself, I take my raw tahini butter. It's amazing. I put in a little yacon syrup and a little Ceylon cinnamon and mix that up. And I have to be careful because that stuff is just incredibly good. And it's so easy to overeat. It's not the calories, it's just, there's only so much fat that liver and gallbladder are capable of handling. But very good. I would say if you're going to get the nut and seed butters, make sure you're reading the label. I prefer them to be raw versus heated, because you can break down all the good chemical constituents that give it that value. Walnuts are very high in omega-3s. That would be a good one if you're looking for anti-inflammation. Trying some walnut butters, but all the seeds too. You do have to be careful if you are eating them exclusively, because they are rich in omega-6 fats, which are good fats, but in excess they can be inflammatory. So you want to watch that you don't have all of your diet as like sunflower, safflower, sesame, so make sure that you have more olives, let's say olive oil, walnuts.
Good to know. I made walnut butter once because I had it and I wanted to try it. It was so good, but I made a small batch and I made myself eke it out because I knew I was going to be sad when it was over. But yes, I easily could have eaten it all in one sitting.
So good.
Yes, so good.
Favorite.
Yes. So I want to make sure we have time for goals. So and it can be a food goal, it could be a recipe, it could be an eating goal, but I like to leave the audience with something that they can do immediately or almost immediately to better their lives in setting goals for their food, eating, etc. habits. So Beth, do you have a good goal that you want to bestow upon our people?
Well, I have two personal goals at the moment. Both of them include baking. I brought 2 giant zucchini back from Iowa, so I'm going to make homemade zucchini bread. I've done everything you can possibly do with the zucchini, the spiralizing to make the pasta, like fake pasta. That's really good. But so I'm going to make some zucchini bread for my mom with my zucchini that I brought back, and I'm going to make a lemon meringue pie for the woman that I'm renting a room from, because she broke her leg, and ever since I moved in, she's been asking me for a lemon meringue pie, and I promised, and now that she has a broken leg, there's not a better time to cheer somebody up with a pie. So those are my goals. They have more to do with baking for other people rather than for myself.
Well, and let me edit you, because I think this is wonderful. So your goal is to make the homemade zucchini bread and the lemon meringue pie. And I think the goal for the people watching should be to make something and gift it to someone else. So, sound
Thank
good?
you. Because that to me is what we need more of, kindness and generosity. And food is that way that we can connect with each other. Everybody needs to eat. Okay, not everybody needs to eat sugar. I got that. But, hey, lemon meringue, it's vitamin C, right? It doesn't have to be something sugary. Just that you would take the time to make something for somebody else. In Iowa, people drop stuff off at people's back doors all the time. But here, everyone's busy and, reach out to a neighbor. Reach out to a neighbor that you maybe or reconnect with an old friend or something. Use that food as an entree, as a way to, I don't know, a peace offering or an introduction or a thank you or just a random act of kindness.
I love it. Okay, so now I'm changing the question because I love how we did this. So, Meg, what is a goal that you're going to do yourself, and what's a goal that you're going to recommend for those who are listening, watching?
That's so interesting because my diet is so good that I'm like, I don't know that I set goals in the food thing anymore. That sounds maybe a little weird, but I do encourage others to set new goals with their food, and one being changing your food quality. Up leveling your quality, because it can save your health. And another thing, Actually, this is something I do have, and I recommend a lot too, is using a really high quality greens powder and just adding that to your diet so that you will get more vitamins and minerals from greens. And the one I use is Fresh Greens, PHRESH Greens. And there's actually a podcast on my website with the owner of the company on who created those. But I do have a whole jar of them in there. I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to add more of that because I've been a little tired lately. So I'm going to add more of that for a little more extra energy.
Excellent. So you will.
So now I have a goal. See, the goal emerged.
I love it. So you are going to add more green powder, and that's another goal people can look at. And if you send me the link to that podcast, I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Great.
This is wonderful. So Kat, your turn.
Oh, wow. I'm just in love with you ladies. You are amazing. And I'm going to take her suggestion for offering, because I used to do that all the time, and I have not been doing that for so many months, maybe a few years now. I've been out of the loop with looking for other people. Now it's different when they come over and we have a nice barbecue or whatever, but like the little things, right? Wrapped up and packaged nicely. I'm going to do that. So that's my goal for myself. And one thing that I would say that I find really, really important for myself and for other people is to really think about dietary diversity. I think we have really lost the art of, foraging for food and having hundreds and hundreds of different types of plants available to us as we used to back in the day. Now we have, I think it's like 8 to 10 different species per season that we eat. It's terrible. We need to do better. Diversity equals, we think about the microbiome, and we were talking about that earlier, but the more diversity that you have with the plants that you eat, the better outcome your gut has, right? Because each of them has different bacteria that is being promoted, and we really are not doing a good job now. We're having more medications, more stress, I won't even say the deadly word, but lots and lots of different things that are attacking our microbiome right now. And we need to be able to just enhance the flora, eating fermented foods, eating colored. Whenever you can get a vegetable that is a different color, for instance, you see kale, but you see purple kale. You see white cauliflower, but then you also see purple and green. You see different zucchini colors. All of those things have their beautiful constituents that are disease fighting and disease preventing. These are called phytochemicals, phytonutrients, they're in change. And it can be really fun, right? Trying new different things. Really trying to think about, I have my clients doing one thing, and this is what I'll end with, is to try and have 50 different novel fruits and vegetables in a week. And you can write it down. I usually chart it. And so let's say, as an example, you have curry or turmeric that's yellow, right? But let's say you use it again Thursday after you did it on Monday, you wouldn't count that again. You had blueberries one day, you can repeat it, but you won't count it. So it's a different, spices, herbs, different things like that. And of course, fruits and vegetables.
So spices and herbs count?
Yes. Spices and herbs actually have more antioxidants than vegetables. They're literally medicinal. They're incredible. They're gifts, true gifts from nature.
Nice. Well, I've learned so much, and yes, I am hungry. I'm sure everybody else is hungry. I did put a warning label on this live saying you may get hungry while you are watching. Before we wrap, please tell me where people can find you. So, Kat, where's the best place people can find you?
Yeah, well, you can find me on Facebook. I've got, I've got my Facebook group. It's called Healthy Hacks That Last. Also on both Insta and Facebook, Cat Dillon, RHN. Easy.
Wonderful. And like I said, any links that you want to send me for the recap, please send them to me. And you can find the recap to this and all of the Gold Chat Lives at thedebmethod.com/blog. So Meg, where can people find you?
You can find me at meghaworth.com or at Dr. Meg Haworth across the platforms, including YouTube. There actually are some on my channel. I do have some cooking videos on there. And when you see my website, you'll be like, whoa, because it's my book, Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. It kind of encapsulates the holistic system of healing yourself and keeping yourself healthy with food and the mental, emotional, and energetic parts of the self and balancing those. So
fantastic. Well, thank you. And Beth, where can people find you?
My website is theworldneedsmorepie.com.
oh, that's so great.
It really does say it all, doesn't it, Beth?
Oh, and one other thought on that giving pie away. I started making pies in cupcake tins so that you don't have to give away the huge pie. You can make it go a lot farther if you do little cupcake sized pies and wrap them up in little wax paper and tie it with a ribbon. So Kat, to your point of, packaging up something cute to be able to hand out, like then you've got this little sort of almost a party favor side thing, and that could really go a long way. Just random act of kindness to your FedEx delivery guy or postman or what have you. So thanks for having me. Also, my cookbook, Ms. American Pie, is available, as well as my first book is called Making Peace, a memoir of love, loss, and pie. And that really sort of covers the whole story about how pie is meant to be shared, and that whole message about how pie helped me heal my grief and how it can help others. So just wanted to get that message in there because I think it's important.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks all of you for joining me for this yummy topic. There, I said it. But it's true. Food, it's like everything. It can heal you. It can make you sick. We don't want that. It can make you well. It's a source of communication. It's a source of memories. It's a source of love. So I mean, you all are just wonderful. Thank you so much for all the tips. Those of you who are tuning in, thank you. If you need to learn more about me, I'm at the Deb Method everywhere or thedebmethod.com. And if you want to set goals in relation to work-life balance or food or anything else, please grab a copy of your goal guide at Amazon or your favorite place to buy books. And so I really want to leave everybody with one final food for thought bit of. Anyway, Beth, final tip?
Don't be afraid to make your own pie crust. You can get over your fear of pie crust. You can get over your fear of a lot of other things, but just start with the pie crust. It's not that hard, I promise you. And also, like Meg, I have a YouTube channel, The World Needs More Pie, with tutorials on there. So don't be afraid.
I love those. Final tip, Dr. Meg.
Food can heal you. Food is medicine, and finding out what medicine in the foods are best for you is actually really fun and exciting and joyful, and allow yourself to explore.
Excellent. And so, Kat, what is your final bit of food for thought?
I'm going to say just make the time. Like, I think that people, in being funny, they sort of come across as like they have a badge of honor for not cooking. And I think that that's really embarrassing. Like, don't be that person. Just take the time to, even if you're going to take out, make a little something on the side that's fresh for yourself to enhance the stuff that you bring in. You can cut corners, it's great, but have something that you made, that you connected with, and just taking the time to enjoy with peace, not hurrying up, not looking at your phone, not doing that, just really connect.
What a wonderful bit to end on. Thank you all again, Beth, Kat, Dr. Meg, for joining me today for Goal Chat Live. Please join me every Sunday night for the Goal Chat Twitter chat, and every Monday for Goal Chat Live and the Deb Show, which is out on Thursdays. Everyone set the food goals, and remember, you can do it.